Hello, I'm Dennis Becker. Welcome to the Info Business University Mindset video, also known as Take Charge of Your Mindset and Take Charge of Your Life. I know, many of you are thinking, this is so unnecessary. I know all this. It doesn't matter. I just want to learn how to make more money. Trust me, this matters, and that's why this is the first order of business. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself in just a minute, and some of you will recognize yourself in my story. If so, awesome. I've had challenges, and I'm sure you have also. I've overcome them, and maybe you haven't yet. That's why you're here today, and the reason why I want to talk about mindset first is because it's the number one reason why I turned things around after I took charge of and changed my mindset. I've been an internet marketer full-time since late 2005. I've been privileged to know many other top marketers. In my personal and public conversations with many of my friends in the industry, it's almost universally agreed by most of the most successful marketers that mindset is the number one, top, A+, most important skill to master. So I want to get you going in the right direction from the beginning and as quickly as possible. So let's start with my giving you a brief look at my background. When I got out of school, I got a job as a computer programmer with a company for $120 a week. I actually thought that was pretty good money. So I started that job, but unfortunately within a few months, I got a call from the U.S. Army. They wanted me for their team. So for the next 3 years, my life was sort of put on hold. But after that job with the Army was over, I went back to my old job. I was there for 7 years, and I really had a good time. After those 7 years, I moved to New Jersey for a new job. I became manager of technical services for a small software company that no longer exists, and they were developing a software product that enabled big corporations to quickly and easily put up online applications. This was before the personal computer, even the internet, really existed. I became an expert with this software product, and eventually this product became so popular and so in demand that I sensed an opportunity to go off on my own and become a software consultant in order to help and train companies all over the country. There's a lot of travel involved, but I thrived on it. But after 8 years of traveling across the country, I guess you'd say that I just got burned out. So, in 1989, I opened a retail store. It was a baseball card store primarily in the beginning. I had been a baseball card collector when I was a kid, and I loved it. But of course, we had to add to our inventory and go into new lines of merchandise like comic books and Beanie Babies and lots of other things that, some of which you would never even believe. For a while, that store did pretty good. The economy was great. We had a great local following, and life was good. But then economic times got tougher, and since our store catered mostly to kids whose collecting habits were paid for by their parents, when times got tougher, it became more important to pay the mortgage and buy food and clothing rather than pieces of cardboard for the kids. In 1998, I found eBay, and with that I was able to sell all over the country instead of just locally. When I realized how expensive it was to sell on eBay, a couple $1,000s a month in fees, I learned how to create my own website so that repeat orders could be fulfilled from there in many cases. My first site was unbelievably ugly, but it worked, and I learned how to improve it and about things like SEO and found those who were doing the IM thing. I soon caught the bug and followed the gurus. I wanted to know how to make thousands of dollars in my sleep or from working in my pajamas at the kitchen table like they did. I tried everything and did nothing more than accumulate debt from my failing retail store and my IM learning experiences. Then in 2005, I got a wake-up call. Whenever in the past I ran short of cash, I'd typically take a credit card advance, or I'd pay for inventory with a credit card and live on the cash coming into the register. But one day when all my cards were maxed out and I applied for a new card, I was declined. I was totally maxed out. My back was against the wall. My store was on life support. My IM dream continued to fail. So I sat down, inventoried all I had tried, all that had failed, all that I had learned over the 3+ years of failure, and decided to simplify everything. Out of that brainstorming came the strategy that I wrote about in my first book, $5 a Day, the strategy that netted me a profit of over $38,000 in the holiday period in 2005, and the decision to write the book about it. And then to create a free forum for readers, and in 2007 a paid membership site for those who wanted more advanced and more intense help. By then I had many more successes using the strategy, as did many of my readers and many of my members. So I like to say, after more than 5 years of utter failure and over $300,000 of credit card debt and a lot of hard work and a lot of luck maybe, I had become an overnight success. During those 5 years I had failed with many of the techniques that I later succeeded with. and I really attribute the change to some subtle but important shifts in my own mindset. So that's why we're here today. Let's stop talking about me and focus on you. So what is mindset? I sort of mentioned this in the beginning, but I don't want to minimize this statement. This belief of mine, and so many of my very successful entrepreneur friends, mindset is very often the number one predictor of success or failure. Now sure, I know you know very successful people who have very successful careers, and they've risen through the ranks of their companies over the years to a position of importance, and they're negative Neds or Nellies. But I'm talking about entrepreneurs, which I am, and I guess you either are or want to be. Someone in control of your own destiny. Someone not relying on someone else to give them a 5% or 10% raise each year and a promotion every 5 to 8 years. One huge part of anyone's mindset is their self-esteem. What do you think about yourself deep down inside? What do you think when someone criticizes you or praises you? Much of your self-esteem was formed when you were a very impressionable child, when your parents or teachers scolded you, or your friends made fun of you, or your sweethearts shot you down or dumped you. Maybe you became shy and withdrawn, or maybe the reverse happened. Maybe you got good grades and were praised and rewarded for them. Regardless, self-esteem is formed early, but even if it's less than fantastic, it can become better. Think about all your skills, all the people who adore you and respect you and depend on you. Overall, I'm sure that you're a very good person, and you must believe that internally. Another part of your mindset is your confidence in yourself. Do you believe in your ability to complete a task, a goal, whether short or long term? Or do you get frustrated and quit when there's a bump in the road, or your first attempt meets with failure? How's your self-talk? What do you say to yourself that no one can hear? Do you say, I can do this, no problem? Or do you say, I'll give it a shot, but I don't know? Again, we're back to self-esteem and confidence, or lack thereof, controlling how we talk to ourselves. We should always be careful to talk in very positive ways to ourselves, because even though no one can hear the talk, our subconscious can, and it's very impressionable. Here's some examples. The first one is the one that changed my whole outlook and turned constant dismal failure into spectacular success. If he can do that, I can do that. I said that about someone who was doing that very successfully. I kept saying that to myself, and by gosh, I could do that, and I did do that. Here's another of my favorites, especially since not every attempt will be successful the first time. Failure is your friend. So you're basically telling yourself that it's okay that you hit that bump in the road, that no one's 100% successful, and you'll try again or try something new. And of course, we all know about Thomas Edison's 10,000 or so failed attempts to invent the incandescent light bulb. He didn't let the first 10,000 failures be anything more than clearing the path to find the eventual, inevitable way that worked. I suspect if he had had 15,000 or 20,000 failures, he still would have kept on, because he felt that failure was his friend, at least in the long term. I doubt that Edison's self-talk after his 7,000th failure was, darn it, this is a waste of time, I'll never figure this out. No, he stayed positive and stayed the course, and our world is a lot brighter because of that. Here's one that helped me. Don't be afraid to try. When I was first trying out my $5 a day strategy, I decided to set up an affiliate page with links to eBay as well as AdSense for the hottest toy at the time. I started to revert back to old self-talk when I said to myself at first, this is a Microsoft product. They're a huge company. Everyone knows this is a hot product, and there will be a ton of huge competition. I can't afford to lose money on paid advertising, and I failed at this before, yada, yada, yada. But I stopped myself and said, you know what, I can set this all up in a day or less. I can set a small budget for advertising that won't break me, and I'll know in 2 days if it'll work or not. And the next day, when it appeared that I had profited on the first day, I decided to increase my ad budget just a little and see if success follows success. And it did. And over the next few weeks, I became very confident that for every dollar that I spent on advertising, I could earn $2 or $3 or more. And as I wrote about inside $5 a day, then it was just a matter of lather, rinse, and repeat over and over for that product as well as many others. Now granted, not all products that I tried were successful. I just chalked them up as a case of failure as your friend and tried something else. Maybe 3 out of 10 worked, and I was thrilled with that. The ones that didn't work maybe cost me $20 or $25 before I killed the ads, and the ones that did work kept on working day after week after month. I had one product group that was earning me a steady profit of around $250 a day for over a year. Nice. If I wouldn't have believed that failure was my friend, and if I would have been afraid to try, I never would have found that little niche group. Here's another thing that I like to tell myself when the going gets tough or when I get sick. This too shall pass. Not every day is a sunny day, But remember, not every day is a rainy day either. So now let's shift a little to beliefs, another big part of your mindset. What you believe is a part of you. For example, if you believe the possession of large sums of money is evil, as many do, then your subconscious will tend to resist acquiring large sums of money and might even sabotage you if you try. We'll talk more about that later. Here's some of my beliefs. Focus is essential. I wrote at length about this first belief of mine inside $5 a day because I found that focus was one of the main keys to turn things around for me. When I was failing, it was mostly because I was trying everything. If something didn't work right away, I moved on to something else. I never gave anything a chance to work. That's part of why buying all the bright shiny objects that you come across is a way that you sabotage yourself. That and other reasons that we'll discuss later. So focus is essential, but then again, there's also the case that you need to have a sense about focusing on something that'll never work and letting it fail and moving on. That comes with experience. Next, good enough is good enough. Too many try for perfection. Let's take product creators as a specific case. Whether it's a software product, a WordPress plugin, an info product in PDF or video or audio format, whatever it is, it's likely that it will never be perfect. So any attempt at perfection is another way to sabotage yourself. Also, it's a way to procrastinate by saying to yourself, I need to proofread one more time to make sure everything is perfect and the images are the best they can be, and on and on and on. Good enough is good enough and can be improved on later if necessary. What if Bill Gates would have waited until Windows was perfect in every way? We'd still be waiting, and we'd all be using a Macintosh, except we might be waiting for perfection there also. So, good enough is good enough for now, but when we do find a problem, or a buyer sees something that he or she would like addressed, then is the time to make the improvement. Another belief that we've talked about already is failure is your friend. Those who are afraid to fail never get much done, do they? They become anxious of what will happen if something isn't right. Will the buyer ask for a refund, or unsubscribe from your email list, or flame you in an email and with a review? Even bad public reviews can be good because it gives you a chance to make your product better, fix a problem, and show the world that you're doing the best you can to handle any problems that might come up. Another belief that I'm fond of is money loves speed. The world and the internet is constantly changing and evolving. As things change, opportunities for products occur, and those who are quick to market before others are the ones who reap the best rewards. How often do you come up with an idea for a product and sit on it for a while and then see someone else come out with that product? How do you feel when that happens? Hopefully that doesn't happen often if money loves speed is part of your mindset. As an entrepreneur, you always have your eyes and ears open for opportunities, right? Some of those opportunities are in fields that you don't have expertise in. And yes, if you're focusing on your specialty, you ignore those opportunities, but sometimes they're just too good and you're in between other projects. In those cases, a true entrepreneur will find a way to become a relative expert in the new field. There's a wealth of information available online and other places for you to develop that expertise. What do you want to learn? Suppose you're tired of creating products and either having the sales pages that you create convert poorly or having to pay professional copywriters thousands of dollars to do them for you. So bit by bit, you learn the fine art of copywriting and become an expert yourself. It's not unreasonable. It just takes time and the mindset to say that if the other person can do it, you can do it, as well as devoting the time to focus on the skill development. Do you want to get involved in other niches or write info products about those other niches? Cool, do it. Search, read, watch YouTube videos. Listen to podcasts and interviews from other experts. It's just a matter of time before you're an expert also. And just because you're not the world's foremost authority on the topic or the world's best copywriter or whatever it is you're developing your expertise in doesn't mean that you aren't a good enough expert to pass on your knowledge to others with less expertise than you have. And yes, people will pay for your expertise if you create products about them. Or, in the case of learning to be a great copywriter, maybe you can be the one to charge others thousands of dollars to write their sales copy for them once you become good at that craft. Another belief that comes from negative self-talk is listening to those who say something can't be done. To me, that only means that the other person can't do it, but it doesn't mean that I can't. What if Thomas Edison listened to the naysayers? He wouldn't be credited with the invention of the light bulb, but certainly someone else would have come along later to do it eventually. Once you have your self-talk and your beliefs in good order, it's time to work on your guiding principles. These are ingrained into people and are traits that make them who they are. For example, the principle of working to always deliver more value than you charge for. Yes, I know. If you've done a ton of research and a lot of trial and error and testing to become an expert in your field, then it means that someone else could learn what you're teaching for free, right? Because in essence, maybe you've done that for yourself. And there are those who believe still that everything on the internet should be free. But that doesn't mean that what you've created is lacking in value. The time you spent to become an expert has a tremendous value. And there are many, maybe millions of others who would love to learn what you're teaching and would prefer having it handed to them on a silver platter rather than do all the research and testing that you did. So that's value. Pricing your product can be a fine art. If you price it too high, it won't sell. And if you price it too low, it'll mean that your expertise is relatively unappreciated and you're not reimbursed for it properly. Somewhere in the middle is where the value versus price relationship lies. The next guiding principle that I want to mention is your willingness to get outside your comfort zone. We're all comfortable where we are. We're used to a certain way of living, where we live, the car we drive, the clothes we wear, the job and the paycheck we get if you're still in that mode. But the typical entrepreneur wants more, and to get more, things often have to change. This change is often frightening, not only to us, but also to our spouse and family and friends, because some changes alter who we are and how we act. Suddenly we're spending more hours on our business and less time maybe watching television and other such leisure pursuits. Suddenly we've grown, and our spouse and family and friends perhaps haven't, so they begin to think that you're leaving them behind, and that can be scary. We need to communicate the reason that we're making these changes, and that we realize that it will affect them, but that it will be a good change for them also when all is said and done. See, our belief is that we can succeed and do better, and our friends and family no longer know you as well as they once did. You don't complain about your boss anymore because you're your boss, and they have less in common with you. Thinking outside the proverbial box is another way to put this perhaps unending phase of our mindset growth. The box we've been in has been comfortable. Now we have to picture ourselves going outside that comfortable box, and yes, it can be frightening, but once you get the chance, you'll probably see a whole new world waiting for you, much like early explorers did when they realized the earth wasn't flat and boats wouldn't fall off the ocean if they went too far. Another part of mindset is being willing to spend money in order to, hopefully, eventually, make money. Maybe I had an advantage because I had many years as a retail store owner. I knew that in order to make a profit, I had to have products to sell to my customers, and when those products sold, I had to consider replacing that inventory that had been sold with more inventory. My wife always had difficulty grasping that fact. Let's say I spent $1,000 on some stuff, and it sold, and I had $2,000 cash now from those sales. She didn't realize that I didn't make a $2,000 profit, but only $1,000, and I had to spend $1,000 again to restock the shelves if I felt that the product would continue to sell. One thing that excited me no end about doing business as an internet marketer was the reverse of that theory. I learned that once a product is created and available, you can sell an infinite number of copies of it without worrying about spending more money to replace the sold copies. Plus, you don't have to worry about the space that the products take in storage waiting to be sold because it's all virtual. Yes, you might have to pay an affiliate to help you sell those products, but you don't pay them until after they bring you the customer, so it's a wonderful thing, even if you're not making 100% profit. The next important guiding principle is to know the value of your time. We each have only 24 hours each day and only so many days available in our lifetime, so each hour is certainly valuable. Yes, we spend a lot of those hours doing things that don't earn us any money, such as when we sleep or eat or read the newspaper or watch television or spend quality time with our family and friends. And of course, those nonprofit hours are vitally important to us and to them, so we can't give them up in all cases. Maybe we can cut down on the television. Maybe we can occasionally cut down on the sleep and some other things in our schedule. But still, let's say that we're willing to work 40 hours a week and we want to earn $50,000 a year. Let's say that we only truly work 50 weeks a year because we have vacation for 2 weeks. So that means we earn $1,000 per week or $25 per hour. That means, sort of, that the value of our time is $25 per hour, right? In very simplistic terms, yes, it does. So what happens when we start our own business? Now we're working 50 hours per week, but earning $100,000 per year. So doing the simple math, that means we earn $2,000 per week and $40 per hour. And if we want to go beyond that amount of earning, the value of our time increases. Now, assuming that we have it in our power to earn more if we work either more hours or smarter hours, what does that tell you? One, that there's a limit to how much you can earn if it's dependent on the number of hours. You don't want to give up the quality time with the family and friends. There's a limited number of hours in each week, 168, and you still need to sleep and eat. That's where you decide to spend some of your income to have others do for you what isn't worth what your time is worth. For example, I used to mow my own lawn. It took at least an hour every week, but sometimes more, because I'd have to go out to buy gas for the mower and add oil and clean it and occasionally sharpen the blade. And then when I got done, I'd be sweating and tired and needed to cool down with a drink of water and maybe a shower, so 1 hour turned into 2 hours often or more. So even though it was good exercise, there came a time when I decided that it wasn't worth my time, and I hired a landscaper to mow our lawn every week during the growing season. It cost me $25 per week, and I don't have to think about the chore. My time is worth more than $25 an hour, or the $12.50 per hour, if you consider my cool-down time when I did the mowing. So that was a no-brainer, and there are other things that I once did that either wasn't good at or dreaded or wasn't worth the value of my time. For example, graphics work. I'm not good at that. Recording audios by narrating something I've written to turn into podcasts. That would take me hours, and I can get all that done for a lot less. But even if I didn't save money, I hated doing that myself. There are lots of other tasks, and outsourcing has been something that makes me much more productive and happy without breaking the bank, because I can do more creative tasks that make me money rather than mundane tasks that don't. Do you say I can't afford to outsource? I know, I said that once upon a time, but now I say that I can't afford not to outsource because I know how much an hour of my time is worth. Another important guiding principle of mine, and hopefully it will be of yours, is the principle of incremental improvement. It sort of goes hand in hand with good enough is good enough, in that I accept the fact that waiting until something is perfect in order to announce it to the world is silly, not to mention impossible. Perfection is impossible, pretty much. I consider it my purpose as an internet marketer specializing mainly in teaching people how to earn money using their computer and the internet, to make them aware of ways to do so that are possible for them. To hold back that information would be unfair, much like in my example of Bill Gates and Windows. If he would have held back releasing a Windows operating system until it was perfect, we'd have been much poorer for the experience. See, most people don't need perfect. They're happy with good enough, and they also expect things to get better over time, and that's what incremental improvement is. It means continuing to allow your product, along with you, to evolve and improve bit by bit by bit. Next, do you have a fear of failure? Some people are absolutely paralyzed by the thought of themselves failing. They procrastinate. They make excuses. They fail to take action. They're afraid of rejection. In the I am space, that can also be a fear of poor or no sales of a product. Face it, that can happen, but will it? Until you try, you don't know, do you? My first Warrior special offer, which I worked for months on and spent a lot of money on, outsourcing mainly, made just one sale. I probably worked for 6 months on it to make it as perfect as possible, and that fear did me no good, did it? I could have launched it months earlier, gotten my one sale, and possibly one refund, or maybe not, and learned a lesson much sooner. Since then, I've had products that have sold thousands of times, and some continue to sell years after they were first released. Yes, I've gotten better at realizing what it takes to make a good product that will help people, but I've also gotten over the fear of bad reviews and poor sales, and I take action rather than procrastinate. Bottom line, to eliminate the fear of failure is to realize that failure is your friend, as I mentioned before. When you do that, you welcome it when things don't go perfectly the first time. But more insidious than the fear of failure, and much more dangerous to your success, is the fear of success. Very few people will admit to having this fear. See, it's easy enough to think that you're making progress toward your goals and what you think is your inevitable success if you're working to overcome opposing habits. But stuck deep down inside a lot of people, and I do mean a lot of people, is a subconscious thought that things will change dramatically if they do succeed. Maybe they won't be able to relate to their friends or their spouse anymore, because sometimes part of social interaction involves complaining about the state of things, the weather, the economy, the boss, the traffic, the menial pay. Suddenly a lot of that will disappear from your conversation, but not theirs. And suddenly, when you get to the point, if you haven't already, where you leave your job behind and start working for yourself from your computer, things will be a lot different. You'll be watching TV less. Maybe you'll be spending less time with the spouse and kids and friends until you get really established. That's all scary, isn't it? Getting over the fear of success is a matter of realizing that your current reality isn't your preferred reality, and the living style of not only you, but also your family, will not only change, but improve and make everyone happier. Commit yourself that you just can't wait for that to happen, and suddenly your subconscious will start accepting your new alternate reality even before it becomes a fact.